Alrighty, it looks like we're getting started. So, welcome to the stream. Welcome to Fresh Faces, New Ideas. My name is David. If you like this channel or you're just new, you please like and subscribe. I usually go live on Fridays at this time around 1, and I do videos daily. Ultimately, as I grow, I would like to be live streaming more often. Anyway, like and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter at Faces Ideas. And I'm going to give it another couple seconds for people to come in. We got a lot to go over today. I've been looking through a lot of data. Hold on, let me just change one of these screens so I can set that up. Anyway, there's a lot to talk about. We're gonna go over a whole bunch of stuff. We're talking about the American Jobs Plan, specifically the Jobs Plan. I just want to reiterate how ridiculous Mitch McConnell's threat is against corporations. We're gonna talk very briefly about this better voters idea. It's a really dumb idea. It doesn't make any sense, and the answer is not the better voters. It's to have lawmakers who actually do what the voters want. Joe Manchin. Then we're going to learn about guns. We're going to go over Joe Biden's speech about gun control, and then we're going to look into the data. Because the point of this, I'm going to be very, very clear. I'm going to reiterate this a whole bunch of times. I'm not looking for individual people stopping home invasions or self-defense. There will be data on that in what I show you, but it is not the main point that I'm looking at. The data I'm specifically looking for, and if people want to argue, I'm being too narrow with my view, I disagree, because this is an argument. The argument I'm looking to educate people on, and myself, is whether or not a good guy with a gun actually stops a bad guy with a gun. Now, this is something we've been hearing for years and years and years. This is why we can't. They say, hey, look, if you stop good people from getting guns, then they can't stop bad people from doing things with guns. So we're going to look into that data, because there's a lot of data, way more than I thought. But we're just going to go overall that data. We're going to go over what the actual definition of a mass shooting is, because as it currently stands, there's 128 mass shootings so far in America. It's possible that I'm a couple days off, my number's off. This is my numbers from yesterday, so it's very easy that something has changed just because of how America is. So, hold on 1 second. Got something in my throat. Okay. So, Jobs Act. The American Jobs Act is what Joe Biden is advocating for. It's currently his next piece of legislation. Now, what he's advocating for right now is kind of irrelevant, since Congress doesn't come back into office until next week. Next week they come into office, and they're going to go through the Jobs Act, and then they're going to put HR 1 to the floor, and then possibly some gun control bills and something else. It's not clear what exactly they're going to be actually advocating for or pushing for. Now, the current pushback on the American Jobs Act is it doesn't have enough infrastructure in it. Now, there's two things to this. One, Pete Buttigieg, who is the transportation secretary, has been on TV multiple times defending this. Now, I don't know about you, but I watch the news a lot. And there was a lot of infrastructure weeks under the Trump administration. I don't remember seeing Elaine Chao advocating for this. She was the transportation secretary. So this is what he was doing. He was advocating for his position. So this is the bill. Let's be very clear about this bill. It is not an infrastructure bill. It is a jobs bill. A lot of it just happens to be focused on infrastructure. That is a big part. Why? Our infrastructure is really bad. It is. We rank something like 13th in the world. The other thing is, infrastructure is an investment that the longer you put off investing in it, the more it's going to cost. They're talking about the Amtrak tunnels. They have to basically de-ice them all the time. They said the only way for us to solve this is to build a new tunnel. And every day that we don't start construction on the tunnel, it costs $1 million extra. That was data from that was something I saw 2 weeks ago. So, as big as this number appears to be, and it does look like a big number. It's $2.3 trillion. It is over 8 years. So it's It's $300 billion a year. $40 billion of that goes to a universal infrastructure for the whole country. The problem with that is just New York. It's $40 billion to get it up to snuff. So this $40 billion is not adequate. The biggest problem with this bill is it's a stopgap. Even $2.5 trillion is a stopgap for how bad this infrastructure is. We need a massive, massive investment. And let's be clear, some of the other things in this bill. This will create jobs, good union jobs, for creating these, building these tunnels, for fixing the bridges, for fixing the streets, for removing lead pipes. This will create jobs for research, because that's one of the other things. So one of the arguments is, and I went over this in my video for Marsha Blackburn, is that there's too much other stuff that's not in it. One of the things she pointed out was green energy research. Now, I'm not going to repeat the fact that climate change is real, but I'm going to tell you that the future is whichever country can figure out how to make climate technology profitable, fastest, and most effective. So how would you do that? Well, the answer is you would do research. So how do you do that research? You fund it. Look, we've already seen that when you actually put funding into research, they can come up with massive, massive advancements. We just saw it with COVID. They came out with this vaccine. They said they did 10 years of research in 10 months. So we can do this if we put the money in it. And this will create green energy jobs, which are generally higher paying than oil and gas jobs. We can create new factories to build these things. We can expand what we sell out to other countries. We could be the leaders in this. But if we don't put the effort in it, we're just going to be, I guess we're going to be stuck in the Middle East and relying on other things. And this other argument is that, we're going to have to be relying on China for the batteries to run these things. Well, if we do the research so we can create it ourselves, we don't have to be relying on China. This is such a stupid argument. Advancement is going to happen. The question is, are we going to lead it, or are we going to be falling behind? The other thing is, one of the big part of this, $400 billion, is for elderly care. Now, the fact that elderly care needs $400 billion is a lot. That's crazy. That's how much money they need. Now, part of it is obviously raising the wages of people who do elderly care. Their wages go up. The other thing is, if you didn't notice during the pandemic, one of the biggest things is making sure that the elderly people were safe and the people who cared for them were also safe, and that how much effort that took. So making sure that your elderly are cared for is a big issue. Making sure that children are cared for. So when we have daycare costs, I think that's in this bill as well. That would help. So this is a word of advice for Democrats. One, every single aspect of this bill has about 50% polling among every single group. Every single aspect. So you have the popular position. You don't have to kowtow to make this bill worse. The things in this bill are popular as it stands with the American people. That's just the way it is. That's what the polling shows, and that's what the data shows. Two, don't worry about what's defining infrastructure. This is not an infrastructure bill. It is a jobs bill. Now, the other thing is, how are they going to pass this? The answer is reconciliation. It is without a doubt reconciliation. Thankfully, the parliamentarian this time made the right ruling. Even the last time they could have overruled them. And that ruling says that they now have a two more shots at reconciliation. Knowing this, the American Jobs Program and the American Tax Plan, which is the second part of the Jobs Program, which is how he's going to pay for it, even though deficit, there's nothing we can do deficit spending. It works. It'll help us in the long run. That's how we grow in the future. So, the American Tax Plan. By putting the American Tax Plan with the American Jobs Plan in one bill, you take both of them together. And then you still have one more reconciliation bill. I don't know what you would do with that, because I'm not sure what is his argument, what bill will fall under that. But if you split it and use both of your reconciliation bills on those two things, you have nothing left. You should put as much as you possibly can in one of these bills. And don't worry about what the argument is of, oh, these things aren't relevant to each other. Just pass them. As long as they're popular with the American people, which they are, pass them. This idea that they're not popular, so we gotta separate it because we want the Republicans to come with us, is not a good idea. They were against the American Rescue Plan, had 70% approval. Every single one of them voted against it. Multiple of them have now advocated for the things that the American Rescue Plan gave to their constituents. They said, oh, look, I got you Madison Cawthorn. I got North Carolina's 11th. I got us funding for a hospital or whatever it was. And then, but he didn't say where it came from. Where did it come from? It came from the American Rescue Plan. Shocker. Actually, the other thing is, the American Rescue Plan gives a lot of money for Medicare. So if you are one of the 12 states that haven't expanded Medicare, you have no reason not to because it's covered by the government. The federal government's covering. The only reason, and I'm going to talk about this in a minute, to not expand Medicare if you're getting it covered by the government, because generally it's 90% covered, but this gives you a surplus now to cover the rest of it, is because you hate poor people and you don't want people to have health care. That is the only excuse. It's not, it's too expensive. It's being covered by other people. It's not. That's not what it is. Okay. So that's. We're going to talk about that in a minute. They have the advantage of this. You put everything in this bill and don't worry about it. Because let's be clear, if this bill goes through reconciliation, we can now compare, as I believe it is, because it doesn't appear that there's going to be a Republican who's going to support it. But I'm going to get to that in a minute. We can compare the two bites, the first two reconciliation bills that went under Donald Trump versus the first two of Joe Biden. Now, to be fair, Joe Biden's first bill was a response to a pandemic, and so his first bill had to be something specific, and it was that bill was the American Rescue Plan. There was a lot of other good things in it. The child tax credit, which I think that's what they're going to try to stabilize permanently for the third reconciliation bill. But there's a lot of other things in that. Unfortunately, $15 minimum wage, they let slip through their hands. That's what we saw there. We saw the American Rescue Plan, we see the American Jobs Plan / American Tax Plan for the Biden administration. That's generally what's probably going to happen for the reconciliation. On the other side, the first bill pushed through for reconciliation under the Trump administration that failed was to take away your health care. That's what it was. It was the repeal of Obamacare. And it wasn't repeal and replace. It was repeal. They were going to do a skinny repeal or a heavy repeal. That was it. Thankfully, John McCain, three senators, managed to vote it down. That's why it got lost. So there was that there. The other thing is, in that bill, there was a massive tax cut. Because that was the whole goal, was to cut taxes for the wealthy. And we know this because somebody asked Donald Trump about it, and he said, no, we're talking about health care. And they're like, no, there's a huge tax cut in this bill. So then the second thing that was pushed through reconciliation that passed was the 2017 tax cut. The 2017 tax cut was a $2 trillion tax cut for the wealthy. It did not pay for itself. It was direct deficit spending. We have 50 years of data that proves that trickle-down economics does not work. And this brings me to Mitch McConnell. Thanks for watching. If you like this content, please hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and that'll keep you up to date on all my stuff. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.